Okay, hello again everybody. With this time we're going to have a look at multiplying a 2-digit by a 2-digit. I know a lot of you struggled with this one. The good thing is you don't have to worry about lining the columns up. So the columns line themselves up. You've just got to worry about the order that you do things in, what you're grouping and where, and your times tables. So again, have a times table grid next to you if you need it, write one out, whatever you need to do your times tables. Let's start with lower digits. So we're going to try not to duplicate digits in any calculation, just so that I don't confuse you when I say you multiply the 4 by the 3 or whatever, and you think which 4 and which 3. So I'm trying to keep all the digits different. So we want to find the product of 23 and 45. We don't need to worry about lining the columns up. Now I need to give myself a bit more room this time because it comes further down the page. And if you remember, we did a little pattern with dots. So I'll try and do that at the same time. So we are going to start with our 3 times our 5. We start on the right, as we do with most calculations. So we start with our 3 times our 5. So if we've got our 3 here, we're going to multiply that by the 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Again, we only put in the ones and we regroup the tens. But this time, rather than regrouping it down here, like we did with the other method, we're actually going to regroup it here. And that's because we're going to need this area underneath later on. So again, you can see that number 15 is there. If it were the other way around, it would say 51. So it helps us to remember that it's the 5 that goes in as the big number and the 1 that's regrouped. And you can see the number 15. So we have multiplied the 3 and the 5. So our first pattern, if you think of those numbers as dots, our first one that we did was those 2 that we multiplied. Now we're going to look at the second thing we multiply, and again we're going to look at them as 4 dots, and this time we're going to multiply diagonally. So we're going to be multiplying the 3 and the 4, these 2. So the 3 times the 4, 3 4s are 12, but we've obviously got this chap here that we can't forget. There we go, that chap there, our 1 that we regrouped. So we do 3 times 4 plus 1. 3 times 4 is 12, add the 1 is 13. So we're going to put in our 13, put in our 3. We would regroup the 1 to here, but there's no column here. So we just create a new one. So actually that's 1 is going to become large. That is our top row done. So to remind you, if you look here, we started with the 2 1s, which were our 3 and our 5. That came to 15. Then we did the 1s and the 10s, these 2. 3 times 4 is 12. But we added this 1 that we regrouped, and that gave us 13. We created the new column here. Okay, so that is row 1 done. We've now got to move on. Now what we're going to be doing next is multiplying this 2 here. Now to make it easier, we're going to keep it as a 2 rather than a 20. We're going to, in our heads, imagine it's a 2. Actually though, it's a 20, which means all our answers have actually got to be 10 times bigger. So rather than multiplying by 2, we're multiplying by 20, so everything has to be 10 times bigger. So to do that, and so we don't need to worry about it, we do, and you'll remember me saying, we do what's called bringing down a 0. So to show that everything's already going to be 10 times bigger, we put a 0 here. That is the bit that is forgotten all the time. So that is so important. Number 3 is really important. Okay, number 4 go back to your 4 dots, and this time we're going to go diagonally the opposite way to last time. So whatever way you did you cross last time, you're now going to go different. So we're now going to be doing 2, and we're going to be multiplying that by this 5. So it'll be 2 times 5 here and here. 2 times 5 is obviously 10. So we're going to put in our 0. But again, we need to regroup. And because we're going to need this space down here again later, I'm going to regroup the same way I did before with a little version up here. And again, you can see it says the number 10, so we know we've got it the right way around. If it was 0 and then 1, it would not say 10, would not be the right way around. Okay, to finish off row 2, we're going to go back to our dots again. I'm using a dodgy stylus here, that doesn't really like doing it. And we're going to now multiply the 2 10s together. So now we're going to do 2, and we're going to be multiplying that by 4. Okay, 2 times 4 is 8, but we have to add in this one here, which would give us 9. So here we're just going to add a 9, put a 9, sorry, we're not adding, we're putting a 9. Okay, so we've multiplied all the different elements together, but we've got to now recombine all the different elements. And to do that, we just finish off with column addition. And this is why we couldn't regroup down here, because we're now doing a new calculation underneath. So to finish our calculation off, we do 5 add 0, which could give us 5. We then do 3 add 0, which would give us 3. And then we do 1 add 9, which would give us 10. Normally we would regroup the 1, but because there's no column here, we will just create one. So our answer is, our product to 23 times 45 is 1035. This is what is super important, and what you want to do is pause this screen and write down this pattern. Use colours if you want to, but this is what is really important, and don't forget number 3. So I always think of it as right hand, Chris, 0 cross, left hand, right hand, right hand here, that's better, Chris, bring down the 0 cross, left hand. So you've got the crisscross either side of the 0. Okay, I hope that was okay for you. I will do another one of these videos with higher digits, just to make the times tables a bit trickier. See you in a bit.